Sheriff Todd Baxter, District Attorney Sandra Doorley, Judge Alex Renzi in New York State Supreme Court. My name is Chris Chester. I've never committed a crime. This is the Freedom of Information Law, dated October 28th, 2022. You refuse to comply with this documentation. You have received this documentation on October 26, 2022, and October 24, 2022. I sent it to you via mail, but I don't know if it gets to you. And you also received a registered mail return receipt. Now, what I did today on October 28, 2022, I wrote this language that I'm going to read every single one. You're going to refuse to comply with every single one. This specific precise is why you corrupt Sandra, Doorley, Todd, Baxter, Alex Renzi. So I read this. I wrote it. Then I went to the post office on East Main Street, and I mailed what I'm going to read, because these are the cards that are going to come back to me. A green card like this, and perhaps I will read every single one of these green cards. I don't know. It depends on time. These green cards are going to come back to me because my name is on the back here. My address that I won't be at for too much longer. Because I'm leaving Monroe County to get away from Psychopaths Incorporated. I'll move back to either my former place of employment or residence in Albany, New York, or my former place of employment or residence in Washington, D.C. You, Todd Baxter, you, Sandra Doorley, you, Alex Renzi, would know anything about Albany, New York, the capital of this great state, and Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States of America, because you spent your entire miserable, disgusting, sick lives here in Monroe County. So, this is coming. Sheriff Todd Baxter, certified mail return receipt, 130 South Plymouth Avenue, District Attorney Sandra Doorley, 47 South Fitzhugh. Alex Renzi waiting for me alone at 99 Exchange Boulevard in Rochester. That disgusting little room. He's in there by himself, just like these next two, in there by themselves on 1985 Bad Road in a disgusting star chamber at Penfield Town Court, without a jury, without a table for a prosecutor, without a table for defense attorney, without a witness box for witness testimony. How you, Sandra Doorley, forced defendants into this nauseating, sickening, repulsive little room is confirmation of your corruption. Paul C. Metzer, Penfield Town Court. James Mullen Jr., Penfield Town Court. You two hacks better send me a list of defendants. I will tell the Department of Justice, Attorney General Merrick Garland, Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, Kristen Clark, United States Attorney for the Western District, Attorney Ross, that you, Paul C. Metzer, and James Mullen Jr., have refused for 18 months to send me a list of defendants in Penfield Town Court. So, I'm going to read this, and this is how it's tracked. So the green card will come back to me. It'll be signed, and perhaps I will read every single one of those green cards or just a few, but you've already received this over and over and over. You've received this Freedom of Information Law where I'm demanding what? What am I demanding from you, Sandra Doorley and Todd Baxter? Does it even have to be said by me? It's information. I specifically am interested in the names of my prosecutors of silence so I can pursue disbarment of these prosecutors of silence with the appellate division of state Supreme Court. I cannot do that if you, Sandra Doorley, exist in that stupidity of silence, that corruption of silence, that extremism of silence, where you're refusing to disclose the names of prosecutors in a public proceeding assigned to my cases. This specifically, precisely, is why you're corrupt. Do you even go into the office, you pathetic diva? Do you work a standard 40-hour work week Monday through Friday, 9 to 5? I've said this repeatedly on YouTube. Your employees, such as Perry Douglas, know the answer to that question. What's the answer, Sandra Doorley? I will contact you with 1,000+ words only on your health, which is in radical decline. You're getting this. You better comply with the law. This is the law I have in my hands. When you demand information, you better receive it. I'm going to read every single one. It's coming to you, and you're going to refuse to comply again with the law because you're drenched in corruption. The internal disciplinary record documentation of employees of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Todd Baxter, Sheriff Todd Baxter is disciplinary record determined for employees of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. Does this need clarification for your skinhead? It does. This is as plain as it gets about how you discipline your employees. I sat in front of this document the first time I wrote it for about 15 minutes thinking about the exact language which I've written over and over to you so your skinhead can understand it. Because when I'm staring at the blank page, I'm thinking, this nauseating, sickening weasel, Todd Baxter, will try to escape complying with this if I don't write the language exactly the way it's supposed to be written. And this is the way it's supposed to be written. So I'm going to read it again for you, Sandra Doorley, and you're going to do the same thing as Todd Baxter. which is refused to disclose the information to me. The internal discipline records of documentation of employees at the Monmouth County District Attorney's Office, District Attorney Sandra Doorley. That District Attorney Sandra Doorley has disciplined, reprimanded, terminated from employment at the Monmouth County District Attorney's Office. Should you fire an assistant district attorney who doesn't talk in court as the defendant is delivered to jail? The answer is yes. A prosecutor has never talked in court for me, and I have been in jail 6 times. What are the names of my prosecutor's sons? I can see them. I can see the female in front of John P. Lomenzo Jr. I'm going to get to him. I can see the female in front of Paul C. Metzer, this 5'2", 3-piece suit boy. This is your assistant district attorney that Regina Harper, the public defender's office, said to me, quote, the prosecutor's not backing down. The prosecutor's not backing down. Why does he call me to 47 South Fitzhugh for an interview? Why didn't he call me on the phone? Why didn't this prosecutor have any contact with me about any concocted charges? Because he's corrupt. And you enable corruption, Sandra Doorley. The names and salaries of every public employee at the Monmouth County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Todd K. Baxter. What's not to understand? If I had the old payroll, I don't because of my illegal eviction by my psychopath landlord, Giuseppe Spano, Anthony Spano. I could compare it to new payroll, and then I'd be able to see how you delivered raises to your employees. Todd Baxter, do you give $5,000 raises, $10,000 raises, $15,000 raises, $20,000 raises? What's the answer? Why is Corey Brown paid $131,000 and you're paid $132,000? Does Corey Brown make more money than you in overtime? What's the answer? You'll exist in that stone cold silence of corruption. The names and salaries of every public employee at the Monmouth County District Attorney's Office, District Attorney Sandra Doorley. You have 15 of your employees on payroll for $100,000. Fine. $100,000 is not the gold standard salary that it was in 1990. That's still a lot of money. I will guess at the percentage of Americans that earn $100,000 more. I believe it's less than 10% or thereabouts. I could be wrong. I don't know. I think the average American salary is perhaps $50,000, $55,000. 15 of your assistant district attorneys for $100,000 more. And how many make more than your $203,089 salary with overtime, Sandra Doorley? Speaking of overtime, which I'm going to do right now, how do you pay your employees overtime? Do your desk jockeys just sit there at the district attorney's office, accumulated overtime when the 41st hour arrives? Do your employees drive around in their vehicles, Todd Baxter, doing nothing, such as on East Main Street in Pindle every single day? I walked by him again today, down East Main Street. I went to this pizza place I love to go to. I came back there. He's sitting there in his vehicle every single day on East Main Street in Pindle. There he is in his vehicle doing nothing. I stood in front of him on this app, TikTok I'm using once, and there he was behind me. Just like your employees do at Wegmans. They sit in their vehicles doing nothing. The cost of overtime, time and a half, well paid beyond base salaries calculated to Monmouth County Sheriff's Office, Todd K. Baxter. Do you have a list of your top 10 overtime employees, Todd Baxter? I'm going to update this FOIL, especially when I contact the Controller of the State of New York, and I will tell the Controller of the State of New York that you're refusing to disclose a list of your employees that are paid salaries with overtime. Are you going to tell the Controller of the State of New York, Thomas P. DiNapoli, that you refuse to comply? If the Controller of the State of New York, Thomas P. DiNapoli, demanded a list of your overtime employees and how much you pay your employees, you can tell him no, and the answer is yes, because you're corrupt. Total cost of overtime, time and a half, well paid beyond a base salary calculated at the Monmouth County District Attorney's Office with District Attorney Sandra Doorley. Good desk jockeys in preparation for trials will work beyond the 40th hour. There's no doubt about that. A murder trial takes preparation. It is understandable if the preparation for a murder trial will take an employee over the 41st hour. And that doesn't have to be explained in the sense that it's unethical. But what's unethical is a district attorney who refuses to disclose how she pays her employees at the 41st hour. You're going to tell Thomas P. DiNapoli you don't have to comply and disclose how taxpayer dollars are expended for employees working the 41st hour and higher? How's that done, Sandra Doorley? Because you know what the answer isn't from you, Todd Baxter, from you, Sandra Doorley, about overtime? The answer isn't, we don't have overtime. We don't pay our salaries a different wage or rate beyond the 41st hour. That doesn't happen in the Sheriff's Office, District Attorney's Office. That's not your answer. Kathleen, no. You work with animals at the Sheriff's Office. Do you know that? Are you in stone cold denial that you work with animals? Because you do. I've been violently attacked at the Penfield Public Library by a psychopath with the last name Siemens who launched himself at me and violently attacked by Sheriff Office employees at Pharmacy Entrance to Wegmans at 2157 Penfield Road. They're animals. Kathleen Miller, are you aware of this? Do you have respect for these animals in their blue suits Do you really? Because you exist in a delusional 1984 if you believe that these men in their blue ice cream man suits exist with ethics and honor and character. How do they behave around you, Kathleen Miller? Have you, Kathleen Miller, been sexually harassed by a Monroe County Sheriff's Office employee? Do you understand the definition of sexual harassment? Sexual harassment is a man asking a woman out on a date over and over and over, and she's under secret now. Sexual harassment is forcible touching in the office. Sexual harassment is lewd, vile, profane language that makes it impossible to focus and concentrate on a job. There are 500 plus ways that this happens in the workplace to dehumanize the human being. Kathleen Miller, are you the victim of sexual harassment? Do you know a female employee has been sexually harassed? The cost of taxpayers, Monroe County Sheriff Todd Baxter suspended taxpayer dollars set on employment-related discrimination lawsuits fair to apply with Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This is one of the most important laws ever enacted in the United States of America, signed by President Lyndon Baines Johnson. It's not only just racism. It's what I'm demanding of you. Is there sexual harassment at 130 South Plymouth Avenue? What's the answer, Todd Baxter? Are you going to exist in the three perfect words for me, which is I don't know? The queen of I don't know is also going to be in refusal for answering this Freedom of Information law. The cost of taxpayers of Monroe County District Attorney Sandra expended taxpayer dollars set on employment-related discrimination lawsuits fair to apply with Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Perry Duckles. Oftentimes in a bureaucracy, the boss, chief executive officer, the person who runs everything is in complete ignorance. And the number two person truly understands what is happening in the office. I believe that's you. And I believe that you, Perry Duckles, are the de facto district attorney of Monroe County. Because Sandra Doorley is in the isolation of ignorance. Do you know your boss is corrupt, Perry Duckles? If you're asked, does Sandra Doorley, the district attorney of Monroe County, comport himself with the highest standards for character and ethics and morality? Is your answer yes? Because you should call George Orwell if your answer is yes, Perry Duckles. So, I have seen sexual harassment in my places of employment. In Albany for the majority and governor, in Washington, D.C. for Congressman Morris Smith of Texas, Senator Olympia Snowe of Maine. It's different ways that it happens. And it is always disturbing for its effects on the morale inside the office, and then what happens to the victim outside of the office. Perry Duckles, what is going on at your district attorney's office? You know who would know the answer about sexual harassment? Is Julie Hahn, who's now on Monroe County Court, who I'm going to be in contact with. I've been on YouTube about her, but I don't know if she's reachable. I don't think she is. She's on the court. This is the true superwoman, Perry Duckles. If you read that profile, I think it's called Rochester Woman online, which every answer from her was ridiculous or ludicrous or laughable. And that's what you are at the district attorney's office. Ridiculous, ludicrous, laughable, and criminal. I got the law right here in my hands, Perry Duckles. I contacted you directly a significant period of time ago. I have that on my email. pduckles@monroecounty.gov. I believe that's your email. I'm going to contact you again directly. Will you sign for it? This is being signed by just Sandra Doorley. Now that I have money, I'm going to be sending you, Perry Duckles, every one of my Freedom of Information law documents where you sign for this, and other employees at the district attorney's office, and other employees at the sheriff's office, such as $0 Michael Radler. You, $0 Michael Radler, will be signing for documentation for me, because I'm going to ask you this question, Michael Radler. I'm going to get to the fall about you. What was the day you were rehired? And you refused to answer. You know why, Michael Radler? Because you're a Jonestown Kool-Aid drinker. And you work for Todd Baxter, where every single inch of him is corrupt. I'm walking through this parking lot next to where I used to live at 26 Sanders Farm Drive in Penfield. I moved there with my ex-girlfriend, Laura Riley. Laura and I moved to Webster. I do not know that even though Laura's hired at the Penfield Public Library, that down the hall from the entrance is Penfield Town Court, because I had only been in a courtroom once in my life. Twice. In Albany, New York, and Washington, D.C. for 2 speeding tickets that were dismissed. So I'm walking through the parking lot every day. For 7 years and 4,000 times, my dentist is Dr. Gloria Nichols. She moves her practice. This Nayrod shop, the old man, lives with his 7-year-old mother, moves into 2033 Penfield Road, walk through the park, I'll come back from Goldstream and Fairport one day. Shaw starts to scream at me, lose his mind, even though people walk through his parking lot all day, including all my neighbors walk through his parking lot, including Penfield High School students, including the elderly woman who lives across the street from me who told me she's been walking through it for 10 years. Shaw goes to the sheriff's office, $67,000. Shannon Meyer calls me. I speak to her for an hour. I do not know. She's concocting criminal contempt for me. She wants to get me to come out of the house by using Steve Desmond and Brock Tree and Long. I'm not going to go into those details here. The sick lunatic range of $67,000, Shannon Meyer, and you skinhead from hell, Todd Baxter, where you have not fired her in all likelihood, of a warrant for my arrest for how I've walked through a parking lot 4,000 times, but not anybody else in Penfield, New York, Monroe County, 17.9 million people in New York. And where's my 14th Amendment right to equal protection of laws? The cost of a surveillance device purchased with taxpayer dollars by Monroe County Sheriff Todd Baxter and fixed to a building at 2025 Penfield Road to monitor Christopher Chichester, 26 Sand Farm Drive, walks through the parking lot next to the building. I'm not going to hold up a photograph of it right now because I only have so much time here at the Rochester Public Library. I'm now at 16 minutes. I'm going to hope to get through these fast and be back on here again in 48 hours, where I hope to hold up pictures of this surveillance device. And yes, that's what it is, Todd Baxter. I've now seen the images. And Ryan Fisher, Atlanta, Georgia, I'm going to get to him. Your employees underwater in the pool. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to hold photographs of these, about what you're doing in Animal House, the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. This is the photography session. What are your employees doing underwater in the pool? It was on your Facebook page. You want such a joke? The cost of taxpayers for photography session approved by Monroe County Sheriff Todd K. Baxter for over 10 Monroe County Sheriff's Office employees underwater pool. I'm just demanding the cost of this, and if you expend taxpayer dollars, but who's under that? Sheriff Baxter, are you in that photograph? It cannot be determined the identities of anybody because they were wearing the wetsuits. Why did you promote this photograph? If it's a private event, you didn't spend taxpayer dollars, and you want to have it on your Facebook page or the official site of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, fine. If you expended taxpayer dollars and you believe that that's a worthy function for tax dollars, what's the answer, Todd Baxter? I believe the answer is yes, but I could be wrong. I could be incorrect. I don't have the arrogance to write about everything, correct about everything. Todd Baxter, what's the answer about your employees underwater in a pool? Did you expend taxpayer dollars for it or not? This is Ryan Fisher. Is he still employed? The cost for a hotel and plane ticket for Monroe County Sheriff's Office employee Ryan Fisher to attend the Super Bowl in Atlanta, Georgia with his canine dog Lola on February 3rd, 2019. I have been in the South a long time ago because Nashville is close to the 101st Airborne Division. I was there from January 2nd, 1986 until May 27th, 1988. I was in the 101st. And I went to Clarksville, Tennessee for the first time to a bar called Texas Eastern. Everybody knows where that is. It's down 41A. And then I went to Nashville for the first time. I think I was there for about 6 weeks with someone on my unit. And this was terrific. I love the South. I love Southerners. But there are parts of the South that are confounding to me. And the behavior of some of these individuals is really disgraceful. And there would be racism that I would occasionally see in Clarksville or the times I went to Nashville. And this is a long time ago. The South is different than the state of New York in 5,000 ways. And what's Ryan Fisher doing in Atlanta, Georgia, Todd Baxter? This state is so alienated from the United States of America that the stars and bars of the flag was not changed until 2003. This is the flag of segregation, racism, and hatred. And here's Ryan Fisher in Atlanta, Georgia for the Super Bowl with his canine dog Lola. Todd Baxter, you have a budget, which I do not know the price of. I'm going to write a separate file for how much your budget totals. And does your budget have line items? I want to see where every penny is at that sheriff's office, and you refuse. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm in the process of writing this, and it's going to have a Freedom of Information Law with an attachment that I hope to be 1,000 words, where I'm demanding where you spend every penny. Do you have a separate fund, if it's called a fund, for travel, where you can send Ryan Fisher to Atlanta, Georgia? What's Ryan Fisher doing in Stars and Bars, Georgia for the Super Bowl, Todd Baxter, with his dog? The cost for a hotel and plane ticket for Monroe County Sheriff's Office employee Ryan Fisher attended the Super Bowl in Atlanta, Georgia with his canine dog Lola on February 3rd, 2019. A Sheriff's Office employee in the state of New York at the Super Bowl. I looked at that picture of him with this idiot smile on his face with the dog sitting next to him, and he wants people to know about it. You want people to know about this at the Sheriff's Office? I'm going to tell you how to be corrupt, Todd. When you're corrupt and you're fleecing taxpayers, don't tell anybody about it. Your employees are grossly overweight, to include you, Todd Baxter. To include your 50, 60-year-old employees. I will demand I write a separate FOIL about the ages of your employees. You don't forcibly retire somebody at 62 years of age. You know why? Because the last time I was in the jail, I took the elevator down to a separate area to exercise. And down, when the elevator arrived, was a man who was at least 70. He looked like he was shrinking inside his uniform. There's no way that he is 62 years old or under. And this is the Old Boy Network, and I think you know who I'm talking about. I will demand a list, if it's a list, of your top 10 employees as far as length of service that have been at the Sheriff's Office. When did you hire them? What year? And this would be under your predecessors, going back 20, 30, 40 years. And what are they still doing at the Sheriff's Office to pass the age of 62? How many employees at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office are working and pay tax dollars past the age of 62? And you'll refuse to answer that question because you're corrupt. Todd K. Baxter. What are the physical training standards and requirements of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office? Sheriff Todd K. Baxter. This employee, this old man shrinking in his uniform. If there was any type of physical training test, he wouldn't pass it. In the United States Army, you know Todd Baxter because you're an E8 or were an E8. You know how it works. This is as basic as it gets for the tens of millions of men and women that have served in the United States military. And you 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you get up, push-up, sit-ups, 2-mile run. It takes less than 60 minutes. Where I was with the 17th Cavalry and 101st Airborne Division, the Rangers were attached to the unit. And I was in awe at the way the Rangers would be physically. Not only at PT, because we would do different things at PT in addition to push-up, sit-ups, and 2-mile run. It would be quite something sometimes. And I would see the Rangers in action. And I really would look at them. I'm trying not to exaggerate here, but I would look at them as like superheroes. They would have their Ranger tab on their left shoulder, and everybody knew what that was. The washout rate for the Rangers is incredibly high. I think it's like 80% will wash out, won't make it. And I would look at the Rangers, even though I have always prided myself on being in physical shape. I can run a 2-mile at that point in about 10 minutes. And I've been running since high school, and I'm a runner now. I've been running my whole life for 5K here. And so I know what it takes to be in physical shape. This was a 5K in Fairport along the Erie Canal. So this is why I'm belaboring this point, Todd Baxter, because you don't belabor it. Your employees are disgusting in their physical appearance with those weight problems, and they're placing their own lives at risk when they're not in physical shape. You have to have the strength in your body to repel violent criminals. No doubt about it, that every single day for a Monroe County Sheriff's Office could be the last day. And that's always praiseworthy. When that Monroe County Sheriff's Office employee wakes up at 7 o'clock in the morning, that Monroe County Sheriff's Office employee could be in the morgue that night. How many jobs in Monroe County face that fate? It's only you and the local police. So, Todd Baxter, why aren't your employees in required physical shape? What's the answer? It's not rhetorical. Answer me. Tell me what the answer is. I'm going to write this down and demand that you answer me, and you'll exist in stone cold silence of corruption. This is Michael Rather, a $0 employee. When you decided that he should be in the sheriff's office at $0, does it occur to your skinhead, to the molecules inside your brain, that this is going to create political problems for you at all? Because you think with Machiavellian conniving. And since you think with Machiavellian conniving, it should occur to you that $0 Michael Rather is going to be a political problem. Because I'm hoping he is one right now as I talk about him, and I've been talking about him for 18 months. Do you pay Michael Rather private money from the campaign accounts you created in 2017 when you first elected? Do you pay Michael Rather private money from the campaign accounts when you reelected in 2021? Does Michael Rather paid any sum of money that's private money that's not taxpayer dollars to go to the Monroe County Sheriff's Office? Because why is he there? Does he just exist at $0 and he's going into the office because he wants to be there? I don't know. You know Todd Baxter. Why is Michael Rather paid $0 and is it private money? That means if it's private money, if I go, and I will, look at your campaign contributions, and I see a dispersal in the last 6 months to Michael Radler, then I know that you're paying Michael Radler to go into work at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office with private money. And then I'm going to get a list of your campaign contributors. I'm going to contribute. You, Todd Baxter, you, Sandra Doorley, I'm going to be on here on YouTube when I go to and acquire from the New York State Board of Elections, I think, or the Monroe County Board of Elections. I'm going to try to find out every single name for your campaign contributors, and I'm going to read those names and the dollar amounts to your campaigns on YouTube. So, Todd Baxter, you have money. That's why you're elected. Do you have private money funding the employment of Michael Radler? This is what I'm going to tell Comptroller Thomas P. DiNapoli, that you refuse to answer. That's what I'm going to tell him. Are you going to refuse to answer if Thomas P. DiNapoli says to you you have $0 employee, and how do you account for this employee? And is this employee paid private money? Accountability is a joke to you, Todd Baxter. Who's at your jail? And what's the name in charge? It's that simple. In Albany, there's the Commission of Correction. And I will contact this commission and tell the commission that you're refusing to answer this Freedom of Information law. It's as simple as it gets. This is how simple this is for you. Focus on simplicity. Todd K. Baxter. The name in charge of every inmate at Monroe County Sheriff Todd K. Baxter's Monroe County Jail from January 2018 to October 28, 2022. I want to know the name in charge for every single inmate, every single one. You do not separate your violent inmates from the non-violent inmates. I'm in there with a man charged with murder. I'm in there with the rapists. I'm in there with the wife beaters. Todd Baxter, separate your violent inmates from your non-violent inmates. Give me 3 names, Sandra Doorley. As the lights go out on me at the Rochester Public Library. 3 names. The documentation for the case of Christopher Chavez before John P. Lomenzo and Jr. in Pembroke Town Court. What is the name of the prosecutor, Sandra Doorley? Total silence is undelivered to jail. The documentation for the case of Christopher Chavez before Paul C. Metzer in Pembroke Town Court. What is the name of the prosecutor, Sandra Doorley? Total silence is undelivered to jail. The documentation for the case of Christopher Chavez before Alex Renzi in New York State Supreme Court. What is the name of the prosecutor, Sandra Doorley? Total silence is undelivered to jail. How am I in jail when a prosecutor doesn't talk in court? Such as this court. A list of defendants in Pembroke Town Court for Paul C. Metzler. A list of defendants in Pembroke Town Court for James Mullen Jr. A list of defendants in Pembroke Town Court for John P. Lomenzo Jr. A list of defendants in New York State Supreme Court for Alex Renzi. This is before I just started writing, Todd Baxter, because you were in Watkins Glen. What are you doing in Watkins Glen? And what are the names of the individuals you took to Watkins Glen? Because you didn't go by yourself. The cost of taxpayers for all travel out of Monroe County in New York State by employees of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office of Sheriff Todd K. Baxter. In my previous employment in Washington, D.C. and Albany, I would see public employees from throughout the state of New York and Albany and throughout the United States of America in Washington, D.C. for conferences. In Washington, D.C., there are the 3 Senate buildings and the 3 House buildings. If you look at a picture of the Capitol, the House is to the right, the Senate's to the left. And there are conferences all over the hill. As I have been reading the work of the Heritage Foundation for 40 plus years, I would occasionally see their conferences on Capitol Hill. And I did not reach the conclusion I have now, like, what are they doing at these conferences and who's coming here? So, and there would be other groups such as the AFL-CIO, the National Education Association, any number of groups, National Organization for Women that would come to the Hill, and they're exercising their First Amendment right. So these are private groups oftentimes. I don't care about what private groups do with private money. I care about what a sheriff and a district attorney supported by tax dollars do with public money, with taxpayer dollars. So corruption requires repetition. The cost of taxpayers for all travel out of Monroe County, New York State by employees of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Todd K. Baxter. The cost of taxpayers for all travel out of Monroe County, New York State by employees at the Monroe County District Attorney's Office, District Attorney Sandra Doorley. I would occasionally see Marsha Clark on TV after the fiasco of the O.J. Simpson trial, concluding she would be at a conference talking about the case as a private citizen. So Sandra Doorley Have you personally been to these conferences in Albany, Washington, D.C., Rochester, anywhere else in the state of New York? Do you think I don't have a right to answer that question? And the answer to that is yes. You don't think I have any right to know what you do with your time. Total cost of the trip to Watkins Glen, New York by Sheriff Todd K. Baxter. I looked at you in that race car and I wasn't surprised. And I had the usual disgust at your skinhead sitting in a race car in Watkins Glen. What's the reason for that trip? Was that an overnight trip? Do you have a per diem for the trip for you and your employees? Who decided to take the trip? Who invited you? You look ridiculous in Animal House, the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, sitting in a race car. Todd Baxter, do you understand the ludicrous existence of you sitting in a race car? So, what I just read to you, and you will receive tomorrow. You received on October 26th and October 24th. So, October 24th, October 26th, October 28th, you got it. And you refuse to comply with every single one. This is why you corrupt. So, by illegal eviction, by my psychopath landlords, I had to go to motor vehicle today, and I have this here. It says, application for permit, driver's license, non-driver ID card. I have to get a non-driver ID card for additional identification so I can move on in my life and get back to Albany, New York, Washington, D.C. Because I have nothing. I own nothing. Because my psychopath landlords, Giuseppe Spano and Antonino Spano, these father-son creeds I hope burn in hell, just lock the doors and lock me out, and then use my idiot ex-girlfriend, Laura Rowley, to take everything I own to a storage locker in Webster, when my sister Barbara ran STEM attacks in Glenwood, Maryland, paid for it, and then she decided not to pay for it, and I don't know this is going on. And everything in that storage locker, everything I own is gone. My 750 books are gone. My bed is gone. My father's dresser from when he was a child in Brooklyn that he gave me is gone. All my clothes are gone. Every single thing I own is gone. I own nothing. I have nothing. And my sister bought me an Amana washer and dryer for $750 that was installed in the basement. And when this new tenant rents 26 Sandra Farm Drive in Penfield, New York, he rents with a washer and dryer owned by Barbara Stamatakis, my sister of Glenwood, Maryland. Isn't that right, Giuseppe Spano and Antonino Spano? If hell is 5,000 degrees, that's not hot enough for you, Giuseppe Spano and Antonino Spano of Webster, New York. So, I got a new bank account, M&T Bank. I show you this because it's costing a lot of money now for me to contact you. And I just opened this account today because I have a separate account now for what I'm doing to you. The M&T Bank is across from Canandaigua Bank, where I'm also a bank. So I got my two banks I'm going to be walking back and forth from to get money to communicate with you. So, because the reason why I show you that about money, and life's not always about money, but money makes the world go around, is that these cards here cost money. And when I put, like I just did today, in these 5 documents, this is 70 documents. I have to go to Patrick's Printing on East Main Street, and that cost me money. We got Patrick's Printing. I have a receipt from him here. That's Patrick's Printing receipt. So I got the receipt from Patrick's Printing. I got the money, so this comes back to me. Every single one of these cards, there's money. So I got a new bank account. And I'm not going to read all these, but what I just read to you, Sheriff Todd K. Baxter, this is Lucy Paulwick on September 27th. This is not any particular order. If I say anybody's name, then I'll stop. So this is District Attorney Sandra Doorley. This is Ron C. Sheila, RSP, September 23rd. Received it then. This is District Attorney again, Sandra Doorley, T. Scott. That's not dated. District Attorney Sandra Doorley, R. Smith, 926. Paul C. Metz, LC Boyce on 929. When I get to Mully and Renzi, I'll stop. Sandra Doorley, Baxter, Doorley, Renzi. Renzi got this. What Renzi's going to receive tomorrow, he received on October 12th, Nicholas Sprague. Is that your clerk, Alex, baby? Do you have clerks just like in the United States Supreme Court? How much is Nicholas Sprague paid? He'll refuse to answer. I'm not trying to be facetious. I will demand how much Nicholas Sprague, who signed this for Alex Renzi's pay, and Alex Renzi refused. I also want the total budget for this guy and how many people he has working for him as he waits for me alone, Sandra Doorley, without a prosecutor present, without a table for a defense attorney and defendant, without a witness box for testimony, and most importantly, without a jury of 12, you nauseating, sickening diva from hell. Paul C. Metzer, Kristen Shapansky, that's October 3rd. I demand a list of 10 contempt board. And then the final one should be James Finelli Jr. I want to see if that's the same individual. I'm going by Alex Renzi's name like 6 times here. James Finelli Jr., that's Kristen Shapansky again on September 30th. So everything I just read, you've received over and over and over from these cards. It would take me 10, 15 minutes to read all these cards and say what I want to think about. But most importantly, on this day, this is it from October 28th. This is what you received. What I read. It's right there. The green cards will come back to me. Please refuse. So I can tell the United States Department of Justice that you're refusing to disclose information to me. Todd Baxter and Sandra Doorley. When you demand information, you better goddamn well receive that information. Isn't that right, Todd Baxter, Sandra Doorley? Every employee of the district attorney's office can walk through that parking lot without being arrested. Every employee of the sheriff's office can walk through that parking lot without being arrested. Paul C. Metzer and James Finelli Jr. can walk through that parking lot in Penfield, New York without being arrested. That's the parking lot next to where I live, 26 Sanders Farm Drive, that can be seen from Penfield Road when you drive toward Wegmans and Camp's Pizza. You will not fire a $67,000 cop from hell, Shannon Meyer, for writing a warrant for my arrest for walking through his parking lot. I'm not going to go into this again. And right next to that building, right next to where I used to live, is 2025 Penfield Road. And on that building, you put the surveillance device that you lied about repeatedly and called Lindsay Bound, the Monroe County Office of Mental Health, to come to my residence. And she chased me down Willow Pond Way when she was in a vehicle with the sheriff. So I went into that in detail. I'm not going to go into that again. A warrant for my arrest for walking through this parking lot, but not for my friend Adam who lived next to me, not for Adam's mother and father who walked through this parking lot, not for the elderly woman across the street that walks through this parking lot, not for the 200 people that walked through this parking lot after the fireworks at Harris Whalen Park on June 30th, 2019. I'm the only citizen in the state of New York with a warrant for arrest for walking through this parking lot. I'm the only citizen in the state of New York being arrested for walking through this parking lot. This because of Shannon Meyer and Neera Shah's and Layla Kumar Shah. I'll be back on here talking about what happened to me at the YMCA with this order of protection written by Paul C. Metzer. Why do 2 people I've never met require an order of protection, you bald-headed widow? Right here. This is today. What I just read to you, October 28th. The green cards are going to come back to me, and this is how I track it right here. I showed up on a previous YouTube, on a previous YouTube, how I had these from 18 months ago, and it was blank because the ink had faded. That's how long I've been on YouTube demanding information from you. Todd, it's 4:45 here on October 28th. Is it time for you to have sex with jail? Quote, I have a passion for jails. Because if you're saying you have a passion for jails, the way I understand the English language is a passion for jails means you want to have sex with a jail. I'm just astonished that a buffoon, stooge, and a half-wit like you uses language like that. And it's not apparent to every single employee at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office that you're a buffoon, stooge, and a half-wit. I have a passion for jails. That in the interview you gave, where nearly every quote is you existing in hilarity for me, where you say I have a passion for jails, and in the Democrat and Chronicle story, I think they put it in quotes that headline the story, I have a passion for jails. What you're doing is confessing that you love suffering. And what you're doing is existing in the ignorance that there are innocent citizens in jail. How am I in jail when a prosecutor doesn't talk in court? Doesn't matter to you, Sandra Doorley, at all. And Todd, tell your employees to stay the hell away from East Main and Pindle. Do you understand me, you buffoon, stooge, and halfwit? Here's your employee right here, driving by Wegmans. I'm walking into Fairport to go to Gold's Gym. Here he comes driving at me. I took out my phone. I'm thinking, please drive right, Mommy. This is going to be the money shot. And he did. If Danny and Colleen Wegman walk into one of their businesses, especially 12157 Penview Road, and they see your employees, I'd like to know, have you ever received a phone call from Danny and Colleen Wegman and saying, tell your employees to do their jobs and stay away from our business? So I'm not going to go into this again, but when I went to Lollipop Farm Humane Society in 2012 to adopt my dog, my ex-girlfriend, Laura Riley, when we lived in Webster, we went through a full background check, answered all the questions. And one of the questions was, have you been arrested? And Laura and I both replied no. And that's why we're allowed to adopt the dog. I'm not going to go into detail about that would happen because this is exhausting. He came to my residence to demand my dog. There's my little guy there. I named him Boom Boom because one of my favorite fighters is Ray Mancini, also known as Boom Boom, the former WBA lightweight champion of the world. Anybody who knows boxing knows his epic fight with Arturo Frias. Heart and soul, Ray Mancini. That's why I named my dog Boom Boom after him. I love the way he fights. He gives it everything he had every single time. Just like my other favorite fighter, Sugar Ray Leonard. You're coming to my residence to demand my dog based on one phone call, and I've walked in the same way for 7 years and 4,000 times. This is why you're a freak, Todd Baxter. I own nothing. I have nothing. I ran a 5K Cobbs Hill Park. I walked into Target. Runners will think about what they want to wear. And I've been to races since I've been going to races since I was 12 years old. Now my mother took me to my first race. And you think about what you want to look like. And I went to Target once and I saw these red, white, and blue shorts. I thought I have to have those shorts. And that's me at Cobbs Hill Park. And I don't have it anymore. I'm not going to show my other outfits. I used to hang my running jerseys on the chandelier on the first floor. They're all gone. Everything's gone. So Todd and Sandra, now that I have money, I have my official Todd Baxter Sandra Doorley wallet here that I bought at Spencer's Gifts in Marketplace Mall. And Todd and Sandra, I love this wallet here. This is my Todd Baxter Sandra Doorley, Alex Renzi, Paul C. Master, James Money Jr. Wallet. And, I have cash in here. And I'm showing you this because these cards here, when I'm sending registered mail return receipt, it costs money. I think today the bill was, if I looked on here, it was $58.70. It's right there. So today, for me to communicate with you, just today alone, is $58.70. Because I'm sending Freedom of Information law. I'm going to spend as much of this money as possible on you. Every single one in there is $20. This is all going to be spent on you, easily. And then I'll go back to the bank again, and I'll demand more information. And you'll refuse every single time because you're corrupt. Do you know you're corrupt? And the answer is no. Conviction Integrity Unit. Why do you, Sandra Doorley, require a separate bureaucracy to police yourself? Because you don't know what's happening with the fanatical, corrupt judges like Alex Renzi, Paul C. Metzger, James Money Jr., and John P. Lamento Jr. in Monroe County. You're in total delusion, denial, indifference. One judge sentences a defendant to jail without a prosecutor talking, without a jury 12. Somebody would have asked me when I worked for the majority leader and governor in Albany, or when I worked for Lamar Smith, who was the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. Can a citizen go to jail because of one judge when a prosecutor doesn't talk? I'd say that's ludicrous. It's ridiculous. Ludicrous and ridiculous has happened to me 6 times. How am I in jail when a prosecutor doesn't talk? What are the names of my prosecutors assigned to my cases? Sandra Doorley, why are you refusing to answer it? Because you're corrupt. So, I'm going to be back on here again. Now that I have money, my bank account balance is right there. And the reason why I show this about money is Ernesto Miranda, in all likelihood, didn't have any money. You should know his name. It's the fanatical cop smashed his civil constitutional rights into a million little pieces, and Miranda exists because of him. Money can help the innocent citizen remain free and out of jail. Money can help the guilty citizen remain free and out of jail. I didn't have money. And some of that is my fault. But the fact that I don't have money shouldn't be the driving force, and that's what it is, to delivering me to jail. I've been defended by individuals of high character at the Public Defender's Office, Regina Harper and Mark Phillips. And it doesn't matter what Regina or Mark did at all. I'm just being declared guilty by fanatical, corrupt judges, Paul C. Metzler, John P. Lomenzo Jr., and Alex Renzi. And then they have total control over my life. When Gina Harper told me, quote, the judge is holding you, when I'm in Livingston County Jail in Geneseo, I hung up the phone and I was stunned that she came to see me too. The judge is holding me. This Paul C. Metzler at one point had total control over my life, just like Alex Renzi. Should never happen in the United States of America. What's happened to me, and I'll contact the Commission on Judicial Conduct in Albany about Paul C. Metzler, James P. Malone Jr., and Alex Renzi. How they're declaring me guilty without a prosecutor ever uttering one syllable in their courtrooms. Sheriff Todd K. Baxter, District Attorney Sandra Doorley, Alex Renzi in New York State Supreme Court, Paul C. Metzler, James P. Malone Jr. in Penfield Town Court. My name is Christopher Chichester. I'm an innocent man.